And so I was like in Texas Roadhouse and I had like a mental breakdown. I was like, I was like washing dishes and I was like, F this, like, I hate this. And I didn't even say anything. I couldn't deal with like what was going on in my head, but I knew I had to do something like real. And they wound up hiring me as a helper for $10.50 an hour. I loved it right away.
I know it says somewhere on your Instagram, one-legged HVAC tech.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you actually have a prosthetic, right?
Yeah. I have a missing a little bit of my leg there. I thought that after I lost my leg that was it. I was like, well, I'm physically retired. Like if I'm do anything going forward, it's going to be like office sales. If you don't mind, do you mind me asking how it happened? And I was like, yeah, right in front of his wife. And his wife was just like, ah! And it was so funny. I couldn't even keep a straight face. And I was like, no, he was like, he looked beside himself when I said, yeah, I do mind. He was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I just asked that.
Hola, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Reliable Trades podcast. I'm your host, Adrian, and I'm an HVAC business owner here in South Texas. I do, a little bit of content creation and things of that nature online. On this podcast, we interview a lot of tradespeople from many different trades, business owners, people in manufacturing, people in software companies, new technicians, older technicians, people that start at 18, 16 even, and people that start in their 40s and 50s. So plenty of good conversations to be had with good people and a lot of good stories that maybe you would relate to. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcast, any other location, please leave us a review. We hope to earn those 5 stars, and I really have fun doing this podcast. I appreciate everybody that watches or listens and makes this what it is. And don't forget to check out HVAC Nights every Thursday night. Me and Jake host a live podcast weekly, and you can also check out merch from my store, the HVAC Nights, the nightwear, any of that at reliablehvacr.net. I also want to thank our sponsors that help keep this thing going. Jobber is our favorite CRM. I've tried different ones until finding Jobber that kind of controls the chaos that it is running a business and still being in the field and trying to get all the billing, quoting, submitting everything that you need to do outside of the field. And with Jobber, we do our maintenance contracts, we do our invoicing, our quoting, following up with customers to get reviews. That has helped our business a lot. And it offers website building and a whole bunch of AI features now baked in, and you can also do add-ons if you have any other software that you want, because they do work with a lot of marketing tools and things, AI receptionists and things like that. So check out Jobber for yourself, see if it helps your business. You get a 2-week free trial and a special discount if you use the link down below. Vito Pro Pack is also a supporter, and I can tell you right now, even though I see a bunch of competitors coming into the field, they are still hands down the best tool bags that you can buy. They are an investment, I understand that, but once you try one, like I did back during COVID, you won't want to use any other tool bag. And the thing is, they have so many products now that you can find the one that is perfect for you. So make sure to check out Vito Pro Pack at your supply house or go to vitopropack.com. True Tech Tools has a lot of their stuff as well. Go check out their website to make sure that you can find the perfect bag for yourself. You won't regret it. And if you guys run your own business, have you heard of CallRail? They are a call tracking service to help you with marketing needs. One of the things that I've heard a lot of is how to get customers, how to get your name out when you're just starting your business. Call tracking and marketing is a big deal, and it's helped us get our name out. And they also introduced this voice assist to help small businesses out when you can't hire or afford to hire a receptionist or even an office space to have this receptionist. So with CallRail in place, they can not only track your calls and tell you what advertisements you're using work or don't work, so you know where to spend your money, backed by data and analytics. And if you're not online, you don't exist in today's world. But they also do this voice assist receptionist that can answer the calls whether you're off, your after hours, weekends with your family, holidays, whatever it is, you're on vacation, you want to take some time off, you still need someone to answer the phone. And in my opinion, in our experience, it's actually helped weed out the good customers from the bad and, spam type of calls that we get. It actually does work. So if you guys want to check it out for yourself, make sure to check out callrail.com. I'll leave a link where you can get a free trial and try out either tracking or the voice assist for yourself and see if you like it and if you can implement it in your business. But trust me, it's going to help you guys quite a bit. Local HQ has been a big help in our marketing and SEO. So they have built our website, they have built our searchability, they have built our Google business profile. And without that, I don't think our phone honestly would have been ringing off the hook the way it is right now. We look professional, everything's in place for customers to find us online, and that is thanks to Local HQ. They are a marketing company that is tailored to the trade. So if you want more information, check out the link below and mention me or the Reliable Trades podcast and get 2 months of SEO for free.
All right, James, what is up, man? Welcome to the show.
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time. How's everything? How's work? All that?
Everything's great. No complaints from me. You'll never hear me complain, man. I'm just grateful to be here every day. I love what I do, so I'm not one of those complaining guys.
Yeah, you're over on the East Coast, so how cold is it over there right now? Pretty
39 degrees. When I got in my car to go get coffee before this, it was 39 degrees.
I can't do that, man. I'm in Texas. The coldest it gets here is like 50s.
And is that cold for you guys? Like, you're bundling up at that, right?
Oh yeah, I got it's a joke. I mean, I get my hoodie, I get my jacket, I get everything, and we do have like a lot of humidity, so that kind of smacks you in the face every now and then, and we deal with that in the summer too, where it gets like sticky and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little rough, even at those temperatures. But like it depends. Like the other day, it really depends on the humidity and the wind chill, because we have high winds a lot. So like if it's real windy, I'm South Texas, so I'm by the border. I'm also by the beach. I deal with all that kind of environment. Yeah, when it gets like super windy and all that, it's a little hard to be out there. But if there's not really much wind or any of that, then it's pretty warm most of the year.
And obviously, like, you guys you do heating too, right? Heating applications out there.
What is heating? Who uses heating down here?
What's that?
I was like, who uses heating down here? It's typically like 90 degrees all year round.
But like for those 50-degree days, like what do you guys have?
No,
do they have heat?
No, because
really?
it is so damn hot all year round. That is considered free air conditioning. You just open up the windows.
So a lot of people don't have like a furnace or a heat pump or things like that.
Everything, and I've had this discussion because you would be on the East Coast. So do you deal with like boilers or like a variety of like heating solutions, I guess?
Yeah, certainly. I work on boilers every day.
So
we do heat pumps and furnaces.
Okay. So like down here, it's a lot of people, when they started buying new equipment, they just went strictly to electric heat because you only need it maybe a week out of the year, or a few days out of the year. So there's no reason to, what was that?
So like, what would they do in that scenario? Put like a heat strip or something in the air handler, or?
It's all electric. So yeah, it's the heat strips, the heating elements. So I mostly do commercial, so I don't deal with like residential as much, but I really don't see any gas or anything else down here. It's really all electric now. And
like a different world then.
Yeah, totally different. That's why I say like HVAC is so interesting, because depending on what region you're in, it's going to be very different from the next. So if you were to plop me in the East Coast where you're at, I would have no idea. Like I've never seen a boiler. I've never seen any of those and I would be more comfortable on the cooling side than I would be the heating side.
Right. You'd probably be fine with the heat pumps though.
I just saw my first heat pump like a year ago.
Wow.
And
What
I
were they?
do commercial, so like it was a Carrier RTU, and I was like, man, I try to brush up. So I watch I watch a lot of YouTube, and I try to keep up to date with stuff that I don't even work on. So I'm familiar with diagnosing like reversing valves and all that. But when I saw that heat pump, and I think we had to replace something else on it, but I looked at it and I'm like, please don't be the reversing valve. I know how much of a pain that is to change out.
Yeah. Yeah, I do vary
Have you ever had
myself.
to do that, like the reversing valve, the ones that get stuck and you replace them?
No, me myself, no. I'm
Okay.
actually relatively new to the service side of this things. I was always an installer.
Oh, okay. Real quick,
Yeah.
before we get too deep into this, can you
Yeah, go
give an
ahead.
introduction, and we'll get into kind of the work that you do?
All right, yeah, my name is James. I'm an HVAC service tech slash selling tech. I live in New Jersey, and I've been doing HVAC for about 10 years. Right out of high school, I started, and I'm 28 now. And I've actually been in the industry in general kind of my whole life. My father is he was a master plumber. He still is, but he used to have his own business, and I was like probably 7, 8, 9 years old, getting thrown in crawl spaces and shit because
Really?
sorry, can I throw me in crawl spaces and stuff, and because I fit and he didn't, so I was no stranger to you know the hands-on work and using a lot of hand tools and just
Okay.
piping and stuff, even when I got into the trade at 18 years old.
That's a super huge advantage benefit, which is why I kind of want to, you know, even if my kids, because I have two, if they don't get into the trade later, right? They can be successful at whatever they want to be, but I would like for them to have those skills, right? Like knowing how to use some hand tools, some power tools, being able to do things around the house, like. And I think HVAC is a good example of that, because we do plumbing, electrical, and the HVAC side of
Yeah,
everything, and a lot of like modifications if you're doing installs and stuff like that. Woodwork
certainly.
sometimes, a lot of it goes into this trade, which is why I think it's great. So if anything, I
Yeah,
want them to learn a few things like changing a tire, fixing some lights around the house, outlets, stuff like that.
yep. I couldn't agree more. And I think we're like the most versatile trade just for that reason. I mean, we kind of do a little bit of everything. And I know we catch some like hate for that too sometimes because like I've been told on certain things to stay in my lane and whatnot, but we really we do it all. I mean, and sometimes you can't call on other people to, like, if you need an electrician, sometimes you gotta do it.
Yeah, and I mean, there's certain times, and we run our own business, so like it's a whole liability thing, but we do have an electrician that we call out for certain jobs and stuff like that, like on speed dial. But like we do our own disconnects, our own whips, we run wiring, we do a
Yeah,
lot of light fixtures and like little things that the customer needs, because we work in restaurants. So if they're like, hey, the ceiling fan's acting kind of funny, or this light over here gave out, like we'll do it. They're small calls,
okay,
right? So we do a lot of that kind of work too.
that's good.
And I also, I didn't start as young as you did. I started out of high school as well, but I was also the one thrown into the weird attic spaces and stuff where you had to like kind of shimmy in there or crawl around because you're the only guy that fits. Now I'm like,
Yeah,
maybe I should put on some weight so I don't have to be that guy anymore.
good point. But that was just how, that's how it always is. When you're new, you're always like the ducked monkey. You're the one running the flexes and the crazy attics and stuff. And
We just
you
hired
got,
three apprentices, so I'm so happy that I'm like, hey, you know what? You go do that.
yeah, you got to pay your dues.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So did you know that another sponsor of the show, DIVERSITECH, is probably in a lot of y'all's vans? They are the umbrella that is Master Care Cleaners, Packard Parts, Hillmore Tools, Fresh Air UV, Swoosh, quick sling, speed clean, a surety, and spin tools. I have almost something from all of those brands in my van ever since we've started. Packard is a big one for us as far as parts. They usually have something that we would need on a day-to-day basis. So the next time you're replacing parts, maybe look at the name and see if it's one of those. They are your one-stop shop for everything HVAC, and they have you covered for your everyday HVAC needs.
So then if your dad did plumbing, is there a reason you didn't go into that field?
It's kind of a funny story. Yes, there's exactly a reason. So when he moved, I didn't get right into HVAC from high school. So I was kind of like I guess what you would almost consider just a burnout. You know, I was kind of party animal out of high school, and even when I was even in the trade, you know, my early 20s and stuff. That's a whole nother part of my story. I won't even get into that right now. But so I was like right out of high school. I didn't go to college, obviously, and I wasn't working right away. So I got a job at like Target, and I was working there for a couple months, quit or got fired. I don't even remember. And then I got another job at Texas Roadhouse. Do you guys know about that? I'm sure you do in Texas.
Yeah, we do. We have a few here.
I was working at Texas Roadhouse washing dishes for about 3 weeks, and I was making $12 an hour, and my dad had just moved to Florida, and I was kind of like really upset about it, and I was hating my job, and I was just like, I had like a midlife crisis at like 18 years old. I was
What
like,
was this in Florida, or where were you guys originally?
No, Jersey.
Oh, so
So
he moved to Florida.
he moved. I never did. I stayed in Jersey. Yeah.
Okay.
My parents were separated. He was with his wife, you know, that kind of story. And so I was like in Texas Roadhouse, and I had like a mental breakdown. I was like, I was like washing dishes, and I was like, F this. Like, I hate this. I literally, I have no problem admitting it as a man. Like, I was like on the verge of tears. I just didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And I was like kind of scared almost. And I was so overwhelmed. I never did this before, and I never did it since, but I just walked out and quit. And I didn't even say anything. I couldn't deal with like what was going on in my head. So I walked out and I quit, and like, I just didn't know what I was going to do with my life, but I knew I had to do something like real. And a little while later, there was an HVAC company down the street from my house, and I was walking by, and I was like, this is perfect. I didn't have a car yet, but I had a license. And so I walked in and applied, and they wound up hiring me as a helper for $10.50 an hour. And I was never happier. Like, I loved it right away. This is the thing I loved about the trades is like, this is what I remembered when working with my dad. And I was like, man, like, you're in a different place every day. You know, it's never the same. It's always a new thing. And I like that aspect of it. You know, I can't be in the same place 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, you know, no windows, just like doing one thing, washing dishes or whatever, you know, being at Target. Like, I'm not built for that kind of environment. Being behind an office desk, you know, it's just not what I'm cut for. And so HVAC was just like, it was perfect. Day one, I was literally in love. And the reason I went with HVAC and not plumbing was because, one, it was close to my house and I could walk there. And
Okay.
two, I didn't want people to be able to say, and this was, you know, hindsight is 2020, like, what a dumb, stupid kid mindset. But I didn't want people to like be able to say, you know, like, oh, like, you only did that because your dad did it, or your dad got you into that. Like, I didn't want anyone to be able to like give the credit. I wanted to be able to say, like, I chose my own thing. I made my own lane. And so that was why. And, you know, looking back, obviously that's stupid, but yeah, I did a totally separate thing. And, you know, there's a lot of things that I know that, you know, he doesn't know HVAC, you know, and it's kind of cool. We talk about stuff all the time, and we back and forth about work, you know, we talk on the phone all the time. So
you guys still have a good relationship and everything. Did he want you to get into plumbing?
no.
No.
Well, it was not, I mean, I'm sure if I was a little more responsible and I made better choices at the time, he probably would have ideally liked to leave me his plumbing business, and I could have
Okay.
ran it, and he could have, taken a step back and been in Florida and not working still.
Yeah.
But, that's just not how the cookie crumbled. I wasn't in the right state of mind at the time, not even close. So
And
everything
I,
happens.
yeah, and I relate to that because I tell that to others because I've had a lot of kids on here, man, like 18 to 20-year-olds that are in way better positions than I was. And I always have to tell them, at that age, I was out, that was my college years. I was out there doing God knows what, laid
Yep.
up at night, just I didn't want to work. At that
Yep.
time, my dad did have his business, offered me a job, and I got into it, but I was still going to school because I was going to trade school, or I switched over to trade school I was going to the university here for like engineering because I still liked taking things apart and electronics, and I like that kind of stuff,
Right.
technology and all that. And I was like, well, screw it, I'll do the engineering route. And then my dad and my parents talked me into doing HVAC and all that, so I went to trade school. So I was still going to school and technically working for him because I did a lot of the computer work because he doesn't know how to use computers, all that. And I would go help. I was a helper. I just wanted to clock out and go hang out with my friends and go do other stuff,
Me
right? So
too.
I wasn't in that mindset either.
No, it took me a few years for sure. Like I, I worked and I had to make my own money, but I didn't want to yet.
Yeah.
I was, it took me a few years to definitely like put my big boy pants on and, actually, granted, I always was grateful for the work, and like
Yeah.
I enjoyed that like I was doing something that I didn't like hate compared to a lot of like my friends and peers. Like,
Oh yeah.
how many people can honestly say that, like, not even that they love their job, like we don't love it every day, but we don't hate it.
Yeah.
I don't, at least,
Yeah,
I know.
it's a good balance. And I had a lot of
Right.
friends at that point that were getting business degrees and all this other stuff because I was always the thing to do. And they would just complain about their job all day, right? Because they're in it, like you said earlier, they're in an office or they're in a stationary place, and I couldn't do that. I already knew that I couldn't do that either.
Yep.
Now you getting frustrated at your previous jobs and stuff like that, that is something that I've also thought about because, again, I always look at it from my point of view, like, oh, I get to go wherever, I got different job sites every day. I'm moving around, I'm moving out, throughout the day to different locations, doing different things. I could not imagine like what you were describing, like going crazy, washing dishes every day, doing the same thing every day
Yeah.
because, and I still see these jokes about it like on Facebook and stuff, like McDonald's and I forgot who else, like they're hiring because they're paying like 15 to 20 an hour, right? And it's like, oh, you can be whatever manager, you can work your way up, right? And I'm like, you know what? No disrespect to anybody that does that, but like, what kind of career choice is that, right? You're doing the same thing every day. Fast food is not easy to do either. Any type of fast food, yeah, somebody has to do it, but there's not a lot of reward in that. You get a lot of
Yeah.
rewarding, a lot of reward factor goes into like what we do, fixing something, getting something working, helping out somebody, installing something. That's all. You get to see like an end result.
The satisfaction. Absolutely. That was in one of my answers I put, like that's a big part of like the job, and the good part of it is like, somebody's dying and no heat or no AC, and like, they'll give you their freaking, no pun intended, because I have one leg, but like they'll give you their fucking arm, or like, part of my language again, but like they're desperate, to say the
Yeah.
least, and it's like you come in with like your Superman cape on, and you get there's equipment back up and running, and it's a good feeling, they're happy, you're happy, and it's a good feeling. Like, you can't not every job
Gives you that.
offers you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, like what you mentioned also with with what your dad did and you wanting to do something different, I totally get that. I know you said it was a kid mindset, but I totally get that because my dad does or was an electrician, and then he got into food service, right? So he doesn't And I have to remind people, because I do get that comment a lot that you were talking about. Oh, it's your dad's business. Oh, your dad does it. I get that quite a bit. And I have to remind everybody, my dad does not do any HVAC whatsoever. He does food service, which is stoves, fryers, stuff like that. And I didn't learn that. I mean, I was a helper. I was a parts runner. I did it for like a year. Didn't really learn a whole lot, right? I was just changing out parts, and I'm like, I got to clock out. I got to go hang out with my friends. So that was that part of my time. And then
Yeah.
I got into HVAC and I got really into it. I loved it. It was interesting. Just even like the refrigeration cycle, how you can make things cold, and like it was just nuts to me when I learned about it. And I got heavily invested in it, and I was in my own lane. My dad didn't do it. We were partners because he wanted an HVAC guy because he does
Right.
restaurant work, right? So why call another company when he can have, me doing it? So that was the whole plan. And I also am very proud that I got my own career path. Now he
You
helped
created
me
your
out.
own lane.
Yeah, he helped me out, no doubt. But I learned everything on my own. I went and screwed up so much and learned the hard way a lot too, because I had to go out there and do it. And got my own license. Like, I'm licensed. I always tell people I'm the contractor. I got that when I was like 25, 26. Nobody believed me. Pull out my
For
card. I'm
you.
like, yes, it's me. Like, you're dealing with the contractor here. Talk to me. So that was always a good feeling, man. So like,
Yeah.
doing your own thing and making your own lane, like you said, that's always a good feeling, and you should definitely be proud of it, no matter what the situation was that got you there.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And it's funny you say that because like 10 years later, I'm, almost 30 years old. Obviously, I don't think the same way. And like,
Mhm.
so with everything you just said, that's also not to say I don't like now looking back, I don't I attribute, most of my influence to him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even have known about trades if I didn't work with him all those years. And just whether I didn't want to do it or not, like, it was funny because like I was a kid, and in the summers when you're off of school, everyone's, doing kid stuff and playing. And my dad wouldn't let me sit home and sleep all day because I was at that, like, at like 12, 13, you're a young teenager going through puberty. Like, you go through that phase where you want to sleep till noon every weekend and
Yep.
every day, every chance you get. He wouldn't let me do that. Him and his wife were both Air Force, and like, he just wouldn't stand for that shit. And he just dragged me to work. And like, I'm not kidding. He would tell me, you can sit your ass in the truck, but you ain't sitting home all day. And sometimes I did that. I
Yeah.
was such a little spiteful, petty little kid, asshole, and like there were days where I sat in the freaking truck all day and didn't work. And I don't say that proudly, believe me, but as I got older, I came around to it more and more. And but yeah, I don't like look at when I say I wanted to create my own lane, like how silly is that? Because like I still attribute, all
Yeah.
of me even wanting to do a trade to him.
That's a, that's what that yeah, yeah, that's why I always say, like, or that's why I was saying I can relate to it, because like, and I just recently had this conversation with my dad. I'm like, you know how many people's lives you've changed, because at his old job he trained a ton of people, and some guys that didn't even do any of that kind of work, and now they have HVAC careers, like with school districts, other companies. We see them around, right? Like, they're guys that he took in and took a chance on because he liked their work ethic, or their, how eager they were to learn. He took a lot of chances on people. And some guys that even had like a bad past, right? They had like a criminal record. Like, he took those people in too. So I told him, I was like, you've changed a lot of lives, including mine, because where would I be without, knowing of this and getting into it because of, him starting a business. Now, I guess I've been reflecting now doing it, because we're transitioning where I'm taking over most of it now. And I'm just thinking about it. So it's like, this was his dream. So my mindset was kind of like yours, and what you were explaining. Like, you just want to get in, get out, do the work. You enjoy it, but you don't want it to take over, right? You still want that life. separation, like your life outside of work, your work life.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted. And I understood that in my trade school because I had a couple of teachers that owned a business and I had a couple of teachers that just worked for the school and like they would clock out, right? They taught, they did, I think, the chiller work for the school, and then they would clock out and be okay. They made a ton of money. And I was like, that's cool. So when my dad started his business, that was his dream to start a business. That was his goal. And his thing was to pass it on to his kids, which is me and my brother that work for him. This was never my dream and never my passion, never like this was not on my radar, right? If he didn't have this business and I still got into the trade somehow, I would probably be just a 9 to 5, working somewhere, being a senior tech and just, enjoying it, but not doing the business side. I've never enjoyed running a business. I'll just put it that way. But again, I got everything from him. I got all my work ethic from him. I got all, running a business from him. So I'm going to continue it. And I'm proud of that. So I always like to correct people like, my dad doesn't do what I do. Don't even bring that up, right? But he is the reason I am the way I am right now, the technician I am. And, the business will live on because that was his dream and I'm going to keep it going.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually I saw you say that on one of your posts to another guy you were having an episode with.
Yeah.
And I wanted to comment on it and say like I relate to that so much because again, just growing up, something you said, like you growing up, like even before you were able to like, you were a young kid but you saw how hard he was working. And, I saw that too. And, it was always, I didn't recognize it as a kid, but when you look back now as an adult and you see how much harder it is. And even my mother too, like you just appreciate they put in for you so much,
Dude. Yeah. I talk about my dad so much because like we're talking about trades here.
Right.
My mom was the same way, the work ethic, like she
100
did her job over 100%. She was like 110 devoted to whatever she did. And she did really well for herself. Like my parents really, tried to make it because we weren't poor, but we weren't rich or well off or anything like that. Like
Right.
we had the bare minimum, and then like they would always exceed a little bit, right, to give us, the Christmas gifts or the birthday parties, stuff like that, whatever they could. So I never felt poor. I knew we weren't, super well off or anything, but they worked their ass off. Like that's something you don't appreciate till you're older. You don't get it. They're working all the time. They're working late. They're working overnight. Like I've seen all that stuff.
Oh my
And
gosh,
now I reflect on it like, man, that was tough because I'm doing it now. Like I just worked yesterday. I had to go into work yesterday and I'm the owner, right? So it is what it is. But it's good to hear even you reflecting on like some of your childhood memories, like working with your dad, because my son is going through that right now. He just turned 12. And I'm like, man, so he's right in that age that you were talking
perfect time
about.
to get started.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, you need to get your butt out of bed because
He just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah. He's shown interest. Both kids have shown interest. Like, what do you do? Or that's cool. Or they go and, they see all the tools that I have. So like there's interest there. And I'm like, man, I can't wait to take you guys during the summer because I'm gonna make you do something.
So something that I've been doing more now as we expand and hire people is training. Something that I've dealt with in the past is dealing with customers and their weird complaints. Where we can get help on those two fronts is actually the software called LiveSwitch. Now, LiveSwitch actually helped a lot of big sporting events. So they have a very capable system in place to where they handle a lot of things during COVID for your NBA, NFL, WWE. Whenever they had those virtual fans, that was LiveSwitch. They also helped with the 911 call where they can have these video calls and different ways of phoning in an emergency. And now they are helping out home service businesses, because the guy that actually runs it ran a home service business himself and actually knows the difficulties and tasks as a business owner, employees, and all that comes with it. You need something that does more than just a FaceTime call. With LiveSwitch, you can do these video calls to any device that has a browser built in, and it is just a link that the customer or one of your technicians clicks on. Once you click on that link, you get end-to-end video. So if you're interested and you want to check out LiveSwitch for yourself, make sure to check out the link down below. And I think this is a game changer. And there's so much other things that I just have not even scratched the surface on. It has a lot of AI built into it. It is just meant to make this experience with your employees and technicians or your customers seamless and just a better experience for both sides.
You know what? Around that age, like 12 or 13, I remember my dad used to give me $10 a day when I worked, when I was a kid, like when a single digit age, right? And then I remember one time the summer had started and I was throwing a tantrum because I'm not kidding when I said like I didn't want to do this stuff a lot. Like, and I wanted to go hang out with my friends. I wanted to go smoke pot and like be a knucklehead and be a punk. Like that's just what I was into at that young age. And you know, I remember I was complaining and he just was like, you know, like what the hell? Like, why don't you want to come to work? And I was like, well, like, I was like, well, I want to make like, I'm tired of making $10 a day and $50 a week. Like, I want to make some money. And I'll never forget. He's like, all right, well, I was thinking more like maybe $50 a day. And dude, when I was 12 or 13, when he said that, I was like literally my jaw hit the floor. I was like, wait, what? I was like, $50 a day? That's like good money for a 12-year-old, man. $250 a week, like cash. There's no 12-year-old that has any business walking around with $250, you know, cash money. Like, so, you know, that could probably be argued in today's, you know, economy.
I was about to say, yeah.
But, you know, we're going back, you know, 10, 15, well, no, like 15 years at least. So
See,
a little bit different.
Yeah, that's the problem with my kids. And that's another point that I've tried to bring up is, you know, when people tell me about, you know, my dad being the owner and I'm the owner's kid, stuff like that, like technically you want to build a better life for your kids, and my dad did exactly that, right? And I'm trying to build a better life for my kids. Like that's just the cycle that it is, right?
You want to learn from where your dad fell short, and you know, you hope kids learn from where you fell short for their
be
kids,
better,
you know?
and their lives are better. But that becomes an issue in today's world because my kids, the problem is they don't care about money because they have everything. Like I don't know I got to start taking things away at this point. They don't. I've tried the money thing. They don't care about money because what are they going to buy? The only thing they buy right now is freaking whatever their game they're playing, like the virtual money that they use.
Yeah. It's, you know, you're in a different, I don't have any kids, so, but I've put a lot of thought into it, how I would navigate the world today, because, you know, I'm sure it'll happen one day. I hope so. And, I have nephews, and you know, I have a lot of friends with kids, and it's definitely not the same, you know, world you're trying to raise kids in, even than it was, you know, 15 plus years ago. It's just totally different. I mean, I think I was honestly part of the last generation that like, I actually, like, we played Manhunt, you know, we would hang out on the porches and like had talk with our friends when we were, you know, on
I miss that stuff.
We'd get home when the lights come on the street. That was I was still doing that. And we didn't all have cell phones. I didn't have my first cell phone until I was probably maybe 11, 12, something like that.
Yeah, and my kids are on the phone all the time. I'm like, dude, get off the freaking phone. Like, that's all they want to do. And I was like that too. We used to have, I was into sports, so we always did, you know, basketball every day, or did something where we hung out, or did something, or walked to someone's house or something.
Rode bikes, something.
Yeah, and like back then you would fend for yourself. Your parents would just let you go, right? Roam. do whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then like as long as you're home by a certain time. And even with me and my cousins, they would go and drop us off in at grandma's house, and all like because I come from a big family, so we would have like 10 cousins there at least. And because my dad is one of 10 kids, so I have a lot of uncles and aunts and a lot of cousins. So huge
Yeah.
family.
Wow.
And yeah, then that was another thing is my grandfather was a auto mechanic, and he taught all his kids to be mechanics, right? So my dad and my uncles that I've worked with doing like this trade also knew how to work on, cars and stuff like that. So then they kind of weave into each other, right? Like you learn. That's why I kind of want to do it with my kids. Like my grandfather taught them, so they had a head start, and then they got into the other trades and stuff like that. I want to do that with my kids, even if they don't do HVAC or anything, just to have that skill set.
I know what you're saying. Like my kids will definitely know how to do a couple things. Even if I have a girl, she's gonna know how to change a tire on her car.
That's what I
I
want.
don't care.
We have a girl, and she just turned 10, and I was like, they don't need to be in the trade, but change a tire, fix a light, do something where you don't have to call somebody to come out to do something like that.
I don't want my daughter to, if I have one, to need to rely on a man for, things like that. Granted, there's nothing wrong with it, but you know,
I've seen some videos, it must have been on TikTok or somewhere, like where there's a flat tire or something happens and it's the girl changing it out, and the guy's just there like, but you can tell it's a kid that doesn't know how to do he's like a gamer or something,
yeah,
right? Doesn't play with or doesn't work with tools. And I was like, that's cool, right? The girl was taught how to use tools and
right,
how to change a tire, all that kind of stuff. And that's what I want. That's all I want. Like for them not to
right, yeah,
rely on anybody, because I don't like to myself. I don't like to rely on anybody, which made me a bad business owner at times because I want to do all the work myself. I don't like relying on anybody else to do an install or to do this or that. I try to do everything. This year has been very difficult for me getting these guys and just stepping back. Like, okay, you guys do the brazing, you guys do this, I'll step back, right? I'll just oversee everything.
it's a good problem to have, though.
They're great. They have picked up so quickly, and they did a few installs now by themselves with me just
Awesome,
watching.
wow,
And I'm like,
good
all right,
stuff.
cool. And I'm like, if you guys, and I just gave them like little tips on the brazing, right? Just make it a little bit easier for them, this and that. But like I didn't have to touch anything. And I was like, that's cool. So I'm focused on growing the business this year, but that was always a difficult part, was me taking myself out, because and this is why I didn't want to be a business owner. I wanted to just have a 9 to 5, is because I love fixing things so much that I want to be the one doing everything. When we did installs, I did all the brazing, I did all the electrical, I did all the everything. The only thing anybody helped me with was like lifting things, because I couldn't, put a walk-in evaporator one-handed, right? I needed help. So I'm used to doing everything, and that's what I love to do. And that would be the reason I didn't want to be a business owner. But, here we are running my dad's business. So, we'll make it work.
Yeah, I like that, man. I like that.
So, obviously I have a question about obstacles. So I know it says somewhere on your Instagram, one-legged HVAC tech. So
Yeah, yeah,
you actually have a prosthetic, right?
yeah. I have a missing a little bit of my leg there, so I use that to get
Is
around.
that from above or below the knee?
So it's below the knee. If it was
Okay.
above the knee, I'm not sure I would be as mobile as I am. Having
Okay.
that knee joint definitely gives me an advantage as far as like being able to get around still. Like I still am able to like ride a bicycle, and I could do a light jog if I wanted to. I wouldn't be sprinting, but so I'm pretty mobile with it. And
Now what around when was this? Like, were you already doing HVAC, or was it
yeah,
before or after?
yeah. So this is, not. It was it was 3.5 years ago this happened. So it was
Like
definitely
Wells?
dead smack in the middle of my
Yeah.
career. So
Now,
I was always an installer. So I got into it, like I said, out of high school, and from then on, I was just, started as a helper, became an installer, and when I was about 24 or 24, I think, I was involved in an accident, and that led to this, and so it was a long recovery. It took me probably
yeah, how
six
long does
months.
that take?
Yeah, I would say it could have been quicker. I'll be honest. I was not mentally there right away. There was definitely a mental obstacle first before I could even think about, getting back to like work and stuff. And actually, I didn't get right back into this. So I thought that after I lost my leg that was it. I was like, well, I'm physically retired. Like if I'm do anything going forward, it's going to be like office sales life. And I had accepted that fate. So I wound up getting a job. Um, Actually, one of the biggest companies in the state of New Jersey. Somehow, some way, I got this position as the sales manager slash coordinator. It was kind of a glorified title, but um, I did that for 2.5 years, and so it was HVAC sales.
Yeah.
So I was still involved in the trade. But I had no experience in sales, nor management, nor coordination. And I genuinely, I think they hired me because they felt bad for me. But, you know, n- nonetheless, I definitely proved myself because I was there for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I actually left on my terms, and it wasn't anything against the company, or I just had to get out of the office. As we
Okay. Yeah,
discussed,
that
we're
goes
not.
back to that, you can't be behind a desk, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And I put up with it for as long as I could, and I had to get out. So this was pretty recently. I had quit that job. It was July, I think, and I took a position at another company in sales, just sales. So, you get a company car, you go run appointments, you sell, you make money. And I'm sure like, HVAC sales is like a hidden gem that people don't know about, but it can be very lucrative. And if
Yeah.
you're a decent HVAC salesman, you're making well over 100 grand, 150 grand a year if you're decent.
I
If
have
you're good,
Yeah, I have friends that are really good at that.
and if you're really good, you can make well into 2, 3, 400,000, 500,000 at some companies. These guys crush it. Um, so I got into sales, anticipating that, and that's not what I got. I have no problem admitting it. I'm probably not a great salesman, because being very personable and like having that good customer interaction, like being good at that, it doesn't really transfer into being a good salesperson. And I learned that the hard
Oh
way.
yeah.
I jumped into sales, and I fell on my face. And in 2 months, I said, F this, because, I would say 90% of the companies that do HVAC sales are probably commission only. You're not getting a base salary. And so I wasn't making a lot of sales because I wasn't good at it, because I'm way too honest with people. I'm not going to try to upsell on, things they don't need. I'm not taking advantage of, 90-year-old Jane because I
That
think I
that's
can.
that's a whole other can of worms, yes.
That's a whole separate problem that this industry has. But I didn't do well, because every customer to me was, oh, what if that was my grandmother? What if that was my mother? What if that was my grandfather? What if that was my aunt, my uncle, my sister?
Yeah.
I am just I relate to people way too much, and I feel bad for them. And I just can't. Like, asking people for $20,000 checks and stuff it's not an easy job. When you, like, I'll say, I have no problem saying it myself. Like, you're sitting there asking somebody to cut a check for money that you've never even had to your name.
I was gonna
It's
say, like, if somebody came and tried to do that to me, like, I would just tell them to get out of here because I'm not paying, that. I'll get somebody to fix, the AC before I
Yeah.
let somebody talk me into, buying one. So it's just crazy for me to think about that goes on, on a daily basis, or some companies are so into that aspect. And like you said, it's hard for me too, because when I sell something, even at my business, it's like I'm going to give you these options, right? I'm always going to offer you a repair unless I absolutely think that it is like a piece of junk and I don't want to spend money on it, or I don't want them to spend money on it, right? So I'm the same way. I get it. It's hard, that whole sales part. And the only time that we sell anything is like when we give them the options and they're like, yeah, we just want a new one. I'm like, okay, then we'll do that. It's a whole different thing.
You run into that. You do. Some people know what they want. They know they got to spend the money, and when you run into those kind of leads, they're great.
Great.
I did make some sales, but it just wasn't for me. So I did that for 2 months, almost to the date. It was like 60 days exactly. I was at that company, and an opportunity came up to take a job that was also a union company, and I just started thinking about my future, and it sounded really enticing to get a pension one day and stuff like that. So I jumped ship and I became a service tech, and that's what I'm doing now. A service, slash selling tech. The company I work at, they understand my situation, so they take it pretty easy on me. Granted, if you've seen my Instagram, I still get sent on calls that,
Yeah,
you
crawl spaces and stuff.
found, and, but it is what it is. That's just, if you're going to do this trade, you're going to do that. Even if you're in sales, you're going to do that sometimes. So,
Yeah.
I took this job in service. And the reason I'm not installing anymore versus service is because service is a lot lighter. You drive around half the day, you carrying around one tool bag. Normally, you might have to grab a part or something from your truck, but other than that, I'm never carrying equipment. I'm never, bringing a boiler down steps, or, lifting an air handler into an attic through like a little scuttle hole anymore. Those days, those are done for me.
Yeah, and that's why I never liked, and I still don't like to sell jobs, right? I'd rather fix it, because you can go in, fix it, get out, charge and move on to the
Yeah.
next one. Because installing some of these places, I'm like, how are we going to get this equipment out? How are we going to get the new one in? Um, and I just had one. They have two indoor. It's a split system for a restaurant, so they have just your basic split systems, residential style, and they have them in the closet. Now we got to remove the doors just to get them in and out, and even then, they decided to build a walk-in box right in front of it, right? So they give us like a real narrow space, and I'm like, how are we going to get anything out? So those are the ones that I don't look forward to. I'd rather try and fix them before we have to sell anything. So I
Yeah.
prefer service 100%.
It's funny you said that, because one of your questions that you had asked me, it was something about like worst job ever or something like that, or most difficult job. And I literally put disassemble air handler, and there was one where we had to
I've heard of
literally
that.
piece by piece take the entire air handler apart, the housing, every piece, and it still was difficult to get up there. And then we had to put it back together.
Yep.
So that was an air handler change out that should have probably taken 4 or 5 hours max. Took probably 10 hours that day, and we were not rushing, because we were pissed from the moment we started, because we knew we had to do it. Like, we were
Yeah.
warned. The owner of the company was like, yeah, this one's going to be tough. You're going to have to take the whole thing apart and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so we were pissed going into it.
I've heard of that, and I'm like, man, I could never. But I think on this one that I was explaining, we thought about it. We debated if we had to do that, because it was super narrow, but it like barely fit. So I was like, just force it through, because like
Yeah.
you have to take it out and then go down this little narrow, basically like a hallway, because they put a walk-in box right there. So I mean, our exit door was right there, so I was like, as long as you can make the turn there and get it out, like we'll get out the door and we'll be fine. So literally was the size of the unit like that we had space. So I was like, if not, we were gonna have to take that apart. And I've seen it online from
Yep.
guys that have to do it. I was like, I never want to do that.
It's not fun. Yeah, I don't recommend.
So you having that prosthetic and dealing with it, is there anything that you try not to do? Is there anything like, do you try to take all the calls that you get, or is there anything that you gotta turn away?
No, I like to be as least problematic as I can as far as like being an employee goes. Like, I don't want to be the guy that's ever calling and complaining that I
Yeah.
can't do this, or this job, this is great, this is too difficult, or calling out, just being late, anything regarding like a nuisance employee. I try to avoid that stuff. So and I think also they try to give me, relatively easier calls, because I just haven't really run into anything yet where I was like, I can't do this. There was actually one where I got to an old lady's house. She lived in a retirement development, and to get into the attic, it was one of those scuttle holes where you had to push the, attic door up and then climb through, and there was no like attic stairs that pulled down. You have to set up your own like
Oh yeah.
6 foot in. And so I don't carry a 6 foot ladder on my truck, again, because I do pretty light service. And in fact, I don't even have a van. I have a little pickup truck. And
Okay.
so, I told the office I can't get in her attic, and they were like, all right, no problem. So, we sent somebody back, and then, the next day, and the next day they sent me back. But so I had to go to the office and get a 6 foot ladder and
Okay.
do it. But luckily, not luckily, but I take care of myself because of the situation I'm in. And I did before that too. I try to go to the gym and stay fit, because this is not an easy trade, if you're out of shape. It's not an easy trade if
Oh,
you're in shape,
don't get me started.
yeah. So I try to stay relatively fit. I'm not perfect, but, um, I'm in pretty good shape. I do, especially with the calisthenics, as far as like pull-ups and stuff go. I do a lot of that stuff because of that reason. Like, there's a lot of climbing we have to do and things like that. So when I got
You do
back,
workouts now that would benefit your situation, right? Because, and I'll get into this a little bit later, but I've had injuries before, and like I know that I'm really bad about not doing any sort of rehab or special
yeah,
workouts, because if you don't, you can't, you're not as mobile basically. And like you said, you work on
yeah,
your upper because you're going to be climbing and stuff.
I should do more, to be honest. I'm like you in that sense. I definitely don't do as many leg days as I should. But then I argue, like, when you have one leg, every day is kind of leg day.
Yeah.
But no, I I should do more.
Yeah, because like what
It
you
will
mentioned
get
about,
hard in the future.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking about right now. But it's because like what you said earlier, because I've gained weight. We work in restaurants. We get offered a lot of free food. I let
I
that
know.
get to me. I let that get to me a couple years right in between my career, I think. I had to lose 50 pounds, and people didn't believe me. They're like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, like I don't have any of those photos right now, but like I was heavier at one point, visibly, and I feel
Yeah.
like crap at work. You're
Yeah.
sluggish. Yeah, and even now, like if I do put on, because I work out on and off, right? I'll get in decent shape and then I'll let it go, right? I feel it when I start putting on those pounds again, because I'm like, I don't feel good at work. Like it really messes with me. So I need to be better about it. And that is something that I think we're in a certain kind of shape because we do what we do. Because I
Hmm.
constantly climb ladders and, get into weird spots and lift things. Like a lot, you get a lot of that at work, but you still need to take care of yourself, because
Hmm.
there are some guys that I've worked with. I'm like, how do you now again, I think the trade gets you in a certain shape, because I've seen guys that are super heavy set and they are able to move around. I'm like, how do you do this? Like they're still able to do
Yeah. I
things, right?
see some pretty funny things. 6'4" lumberjacks with big old beer bellies, but
Yeah,
they get the job done.
they get it done. But I was like, it's probably not comfortable. So I would, for me, I would like to keep the weight off and kind of keep that,
Yeah.
keep in shape because it does help a lot.
Even lunch, like I try to being on the road all day now,
I
especially.
hate it, dude. I'm
I
always I'm always a sucker for fast
because you
food, and
stop if you don't pack it, you'll stop
yeah,
10 times, and that's me. If I don't bring lunch, I'm stopping at 3, 4 times. Oh, I need a Red Bull. Oh, I need to grab something to snack on. Oh, I need like I'm
snacks. Yeah,
terrible. So I've been trying to bring lunch, and but like when I was an installer, we would I never brought lunch, and we would always take lunch, and I never realized it until like now, but like it kills your momentum. Like if you're going hard and then you eat that, we're getting pizza or subs and
yeah,
stuff, and you eat and suddenly you're like, you don't want to go back to work. And like I don't
Right.
experience that at all anymore because I try to keep my lunch light to begin with now, and I keep it healthy for the most part. And I just, that's what I found to be really crucial in service is bringing food and also just not like overdoing it on the junk because you'll crash. And like, you don't, especially in service, you don't know if you're working 6 hours or 12. So
Yeah.
you need to, maintain your energy levels, accordingly.
Yeah, and see, my dad and I think my uncle does the same thing because we have a senior tech that is training a lot of the new guys, right? I'll go and check on them, but like they're usually with him, and my dad is the same way. Like they don't even like to take a lunch. That's another bad thing.
Yeah.
The guy we took a lunch. Now my dad does like this one Chinese restaurant that we go to, and we tend to overeat there. That's just we go every now and then. It's not an everyday.
You're going to overeat.
Yeah, it's not an everyday thing, right? So we had a meeting there with everybody, and we're like, yeah, let's go out to eat. Let's have a little meeting, this and that. And then some of the apprentices made a comment. They're like, well, we actually get a lunch today because this guy doesn't like to take a lunch, and he's like looking at him like we have work to do. He's like, but that's the old mindset, right? Like my dad is bad about it. My our senior tech is bad about it, and you do have to take those breaks or that lunch, but just for me, I know I need to start packing again because I'm pretty happy with something simple. It's just when you're working and you don't have a packed lunch, you're going to go get something like, fast food or something greasy or a pizza or something, right? Because
Every
it's so
time.
easy to get.
And it doesn't set like if I'm going to buy lunch, like I'm not buying a yogurt and a
Yeah.
banana or an apple. Like, it just doesn't sound enticing. But if that's what or appetizing
Pack.
rather, but if that's what I packed, that's just what I'm gonna eat. So listen, I try. I'm not perfect with it. Sometimes I still fall short, and sometimes I'll forget lunch, and like that's my excuse. Now I'm getting Dunkin' Donuts food.
Yep.
I'm getting in the morning. I'm getting Chipotle for lunch, and on the way home, I'm getting a Wawa sub for dinner, and then I'm eating dinner, whatever's for dinner at home. It's
Yeah, it
terrible.
happens. So for myself, I don't want to compare what I have to what you have as far as your situation there with your leg. I used to play sports, so I tore my ACL at one point. I had a botched surgery, so I do not have full range mobility in my left leg. Now, this happened after a couple years being in the trade, right? But it's a completely, sports related injury. So uh, I was a little worried too because I couldn't move my leg for a while, and I actually had a friend that came over to help me rehab it because like the doctor I had was just, he didn't even want me to do rehab. Like I had the weirdest doctor when that happened. So I had to go back and get 2 more surgeries to try and loosen it up and clean it out and do all this other stuff. And it's still like super sensitive when I kneel down, and like there's a lot of things that bother me at work. But again, I don't like to be kind of like what you said, like a problem. So I kind of work through it or just be creative, just think about it. Just I move I move completely different from when I used to work without this injury, right? I used to be able to jump into everything, get into every spot, and I never hesitated because I was into sports. So I was used to doing athletic things, right? So I had to think a little bit different after that injury happened as far as like, how am I going to get behind this unit? How am I going to get in this attic space? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? So those are things that happen on my end. Like I said, I don't want to compare it to what you have. You lost your leg, but that's a whole different story. It's just I wanted to have you on to talk about that because having an injury, having, you know, these things that happen to us outside of work, you can still do this trade. And that's kind of what I've tried to tell people. I'm like, listen, if I can do it, you can do it, because I have a hard time kneeling down. I have a hard time getting in certain spots. And if you're young and you know, you're athletic, like take advantage of that, like take care of yourself and, you know, do the job the best that you can, because, you know, I'm out here just dragging my leg around and I'm like, I can do it. Right. So it's cool to see you and what you've been able to do with your situation. You still, I've seen your videos. I went through, you popped up on my feed and I went through like a doom scroll just to go look at, you know, the kind of work that you do. Cause I'm like, how does he do it? I've always complained about myself and I'm like, this guy doesn't have his leg. And you're getting into crawl spaces and attics, and I've seen you get creative. I think you sometimes you take off your prosthetic to get into spots. No?
Yeah, definitely. And that's sometimes it's easier, and sometimes I don't want to get it too dirty also, because you know
Yeah.
they're expensive, and
I was gonna say they're not cheap.
Yeah. So by all means necessary, I try to take good care of the thing. And there's definitely in attics a lot. I try to like, if I'm going to be like climbing around and I'm able to take it off, I will, because I don't want to get like, even with pants, like all the insulation, just like, you know, if my pant leg, this is what actually what had happened is one time my pant leg had rolled up and I didn't realize it because I don't feel it because it's not really there. And I got all like fiberglass insulation like on my like sock and on the like down on the foot part, which, you know, people that don't have one wouldn't know if that really matters and means, but you know, there's just like components like same thing with equipment. There's just screws and like, you know, parts that I don't want to start getting like gooked up with like, you know, dust and stuff. I want everything to stay clean because God forbid there's an issue. You know, I haven't had one yet, knock on wood, but I just want to try to prevent it. That's really it, you know. In some spaces, it definitely is easier to just take it off.
Now, did you think? I think you did mention this. Like, did you think you wouldn't be able to do this kind of work anymore?
Yeah, I accepted that actually for many.
And then what changed? Like, what made you want to do it again?
So when I got into sales, I was, you know, for that 2 months, I suddenly was back in the field, and I'm not in the office anymore. I'm now going in the attics, going in the crawl spaces, going in the basements, you know, climbing and get to the, oh, I got to get this model and serial number,
Oh, okay.
or I got to climb around like an idiot, you know, like. So I started, it was kind of like a slow drip into it. Like I didn't really realize it was happening, but when the sales thing started to go south, that's when I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I should probably try to maybe go sell at another company, maybe. And then I realized, like, you know, it's not the company, it's me. And I was like, I should probably just go back in the field. And, you know, I've had thousands of dollars worth of tools since I've been doing this stuff. You know, when I first started my first week, I used to buy one tool every paycheck, a new hand tool, and then a drill, and then, you know, a sawzall. Like, I was a helper at like, I was like, you know, 20 years old, like a good helper at this point, but I had more tools than most of the installers at the company. I didn't like, anytime I ever had to ask somebody to borrow something, I hated that feeling and I would go out and buy it when I could. Like, so I was like a helper, you know, I had a hammer drill, I had a sawzall, like I had the Milwaukee pack outs. Like, I kind of would pull up, I had the Milwaukee pack outs and it stacked up like 1, 2, and 3. So I had like a whole extension of an install truck of my own tools, you know?
Yeah.
And so like, I was just like, that's how I was. I just liked being like that. I like being professional. I like having good tools. I'm a Milwaukee guy. I'm a Klein guy, you know, for the electrical and hand tools and stuff. I just like having good, you know, our tools. I've got tools that I had since I've been in the trade at 18 years old, 19 years old. So like some of my tools, and they're still fine. You know, your tools should last forever. A lot of them.
You don't lose them? Mine always
Dude,
walk away.
Well, I don't let people use my stuff. Even when I was an installer, an installer helper, I did not like that. You know, if you use something, you know, I damn near made you log it out and log it back in.
Somebody somebody asked us, because I do another live stream with Jake, and somebody was like, what's an advice for an apprentice or a new technician? And Jake was like, don't let anybody use your tools. Like you'll lose them.
Yeah,
Number one
yeah.
thing.
And I used to lock my truck because like if you know, sometimes it's slower in the winter, they'll send like you know, half the company to a big new install, and we're all banging ductwork together and blasting music and having a good time because it's, you know, slower and slower pace of work. I would lock my truck because people, you know, some one of the helpers needs something and they're digging through everybody's truck for a
Yeah.
coupling or, you know, a fitting, and they don't have any regard for like an organized, neat. My truck is impeccable. Like, you know, you need a 3/4 inch 90. I know where it is. I can actually direct you to exactly where it is. Like, that's my truck. And that's very rare in this trade. I know that. So, you know, people go in there and start digging around and messing your shit up. I got sick of that really quick and I would lock my truck.
Yeah, it happens. That's why, again, same thing here. We do installs, and now we have more people, and it's like, you know, most of us will be there just for the like the lifting and everything, and like same thing. I got to make sure that I retrieve anything that is borrowed because it'll walk away. Okay, so then you slowly got into it because you were already digging around, you know, trying to get model numbers. You were realizing that you could actually, you know, get into these spots and do
Yeah.
it again, basically, right? So that's good to hear, because I would
Yeah, it
I
was
would
like,
because I would assume, because earlier you mentioned how it took you a while to take it in, right? Losing a leg. I mean, I can't imagine that myself. Like that's a whole other experience, because I was just going back to when I had my botched surgery. Like I also had that, like, what the hell am I going to do? I couldn't move. I couldn't walk. And it took me a while to rehab because it wasn't done right the first time. So that's a whole other thing. But you
can I
know,
ask
kind
you
of
something?
go ahead.
It was like, for me, it was kind of like the first earth-shattering moment of my life where, and I want to know if that's similar with you. Like, when you're younger, you quite literally feel like you're Superman. You don't get sick.
Yeah,
You don't get it. I've never even broken a bone in my life.
me either.
Sawed in half, you know? So like, you really think you're Superman your whole life. I mean, some of the things that I have lived through, you know, I don't even care to talk about, but like, you think you're indestructible in a sense, and then suddenly you're not. And it totally was like a paradigm shift in my way of thinking in life. It altered my perception of reality and like what this it all is. And it sounds kind of like corny and like, I'm not trying to get all deep and philosophical on you, but it's so real for me. Like, when after this, it changed everything about me. You know, I just totally, and for the better too. I mean, I'm not just saying that. Like, it really woke me up in life.
Now, look, you have to, in your situation, you have to work a little bit harder, right? Like there is a difference, obviously, because you lost a leg, you have your prosthetic, you do this trade, and just and outside of work, like you have a different life now because of that, right? Now, when it happened to me, or when I tore my ACL, and it was weird, man. Like mine, I played every freaking day. I played basketball every day. I've never had any major surgery, injury. I never had any issues. Nothing ever happened to me that was major. And then that happened. I was at an open gym, landed. I didn't even land awkward. I just landed straight up and down in a group of, like, we're all trying to get the ball right, and we just landed down,
That's what
and it's
scares
something
me.
and something felt weird, and then I couldn't move, and I started limping to the bench, and I just took myself out of the game and all that. Now the weird thing is, like, I was like, and I remember the pop and everything. The thing is, like, I was able to walk, so I didn't think, I was like, oh, okay, hopefully I just sprained something, you know, whatever. And then I drove home. I did everything right. I'm
Oh,
just trying not to think about it, I guess. And I have the thing is, I have a high pain tolerance as well. So like, I was just like, oh, it's whatever, right? Didn't get better. I was like, maybe I should go see a doctor. Like a day or two
Oh my
later,
God.
I forgot what it was.
That's so painful, man.
Yeah, because they do that test where they push and see if your kneecap comes out, because that's kind of like the test. If it comes
Yeah.
out, it's torn. And I was like, oh shit. Okay. So you okay?
Yeah, no, I'm like looking at my leg now. I'm like just thinking of like,
So like I've never really talked about it because, again, like kind of like what you were saying is, like, I didn't want anybody to feel sorry for me. I didn't want like that to be the perception. Like I was like, okay, like I got to deal with it. I got to get the surgery. We did it. I had complications afterwards. I was in bed a lot. Like I couldn't do shit like at all. And a friend of mine actually came over because it's weird, man, because I can only imagine what you went through. I'm sure there's doubt, depression, a lot of stuff that goes through your head. I had some of that too. Now I talking to you, I'm like, I was being a baby about it because it's a whole different thing. But I felt like that. Like I was in bed and I was like, what am I going to do? I can't move my leg. I can't walk. I can't do anything.
I
And
mean, listen, it's the thoughts are the same though. I get it. Like just
yeah,
because
because
just
I
because
was used to
here.
playing basketball every single day. Like that was my life. I even wanted to do that professionally, not like NBA level, but I was like, I can do something else. We had local teams and stuff. I was like, I can do something else.
Now you're like, holy shit, I can't, like, I'm done for probably well, I don't know what the recovery process is, but I'm thinking
It's
with
supposed to be
6
like a
months
year.
at least.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So like now in your head, you just went from being Superman balling every day to now you got a year, you got to take it easy.
And work. I had just started working for my dad, and I felt horrible because I had just started.
Oh.
So, my friend helped me recover because, and I don't even talk to that friend anymore. Like we didn't end on bad terms or anything, but he had a family. He's in border patrol. He was talking about moving to Canada, and like he's real high up in that border patrol. He has like a high job there, but like we just got distant, right? And the thing is, we hadn't spoken a whole lot before that. He got wind of it, or we talked, or something happened. We reconnected, and he showed up to help me rehab because he heard, because he knows my parents and
Oh
stuff.
wow.
He's a good friend of my, like the family, that I was moping around, right? That I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to do anything. It just, that physically hurt so much, like for the rehab and everything. Like it just hurt. Like I didn't want to do it. This guy came to check. How long ago? That was what are we, dude? That was like back in 2010, I think.
Oh wow. Okay.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, I was like, talking about being invincible. I was like 21 at the time, 21. So this guy came over to help me get out of bed. He's like, you need to get your ass out of bed. You need to rehab. He forced me to do all the crazy workouts, right? To walk. And I literally walked across my living room, and I was like, holy shit, okay, I can walk now, because I couldn't do that for a long time. It was so painful. So this guy came in, helped me rehab, helped me get out of the mindset that I had at that time. And then we were friends for a bit. And like I said, he moved, he had a family. So this guy was only there for that specific time to get me back on my feet. So it was just a weird thing. Sometimes things
Yeah,
happen for a reason, right? So that was just one of those weird things.
that's funny you say that.
And
Yeah, I know what you mean.
after that, I was motivated to do like a whole lot more, because I was trying to get back into basketball and stuff like that. But I'm stubborn, man. I was in a, what do you call it? Parks and Rec, some sort of little league here. And I played. I was like, I'm going to start playing again. And I played. People said that they could see me visibly limping up and down the court, but I was like, I have to try. And then after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to get out. I'm going to go back to work and focus on work only.
You still play it all or no?
I tried to. actually helps me if I can at least run around and shoot around with the mobility. But I know I should be doing rehab, so that's something I need to be doing. I don't like to do it.
Gotcha. Yeah. I never really played any sports.
Oh,
I
no?
played baseball when I was young. That was
Oh.
it. But I just never got into any of it afterwards. You know, I go to the gym though. That's my thing. I like to lift weights.
Do customers ever ask you about that, or kind of hound you about the prosthetic?
Yeah. Sometimes it's kind of funny because again, I kind of told you like before we got on that I'm pretty much an open book.
Yeah.
So I don't mind when people ask. In fact, I actually like to mess with them sometimes. Like just this was it Thursday or Friday that just passed. One of my customers, it was late. It was like a late call. It was like 6, 7 o'clock, which it was already pitch black out at this point. And the guy was like, I had told them about it because they asked why. I was like, I was limping a little bit, and sometimes that'll happen towards later in the day. Like that's a whole nother, topic. But
Yeah.
the way the prosthetic fits, it literally changes throughout the day. It changes with the weather, so that's a whole nother thing.
Oh,
But yeah, it gets tricky sometimes, but I'm good. And so yeah, he was asking, and he's like, if you don't mind, if you don't mind, do you mind me asking how it happened? And I was like, yeah, right in front of his wife, and his wife was just like, ha! And it was so funny. I couldn't even keep a straight face, and I was like, no. He was like, he looked beside himself when I said, yeah, I do
yeah.
mind. He was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I just asked that. And I had to like, I was like, I'm just kidding, man. I was like, yeah, I don't mind. I was like, and I talked to him about it. But yeah, people do ask, and sometimes like the way they ask does kind of catch me off guard. But you know, I don't mind at all. But sometimes people would just like casually be like, they kind of do it how like I'm very like blunt and like just honest, and I'll just say what's on my mind. And I think a lot of people are similar in that regard, and they'll be like, oh, how'd that happen? Or like just
Yeah.
without even thinking like, oh, he might not want to talk about it or whatever. But I like I said, I don't mind.
Yeah, like I said, I can't imagine, but I just wanted to get you on here to kind of talk about it, and it's cool to see, because I think that's just that mindset. Nothing can stop you. If you really want to do something that you love or that you enjoy, you can do it. Usually, it's a mindset. I mean, you have your physical limitations here and there, but you can get around it if you really want to.
I had an experience that definitely altered the way I navigated in this industry when I was probably 20 years old, 21 years. No, I was like 22 probably. I got a job at this company, and a week later, this kid that I went to high school with started. His name was Dylan, and we were cool. Like we got along great and stuff. No issues with that. And we were making the same money, and doesn't matter what it was, but we were making the same hourly rate, and we would talk about stuff like that. We were cool, and we worked together almost every day together. And I'll never forget, there was a time where we were on a job install, and the owner was with us, and we were kind of doing like our tasks that we were supposed to do. And I remember Dylan kind of like just jumped in and started doing stuff on the furnace that like he didn't really know how to do, but he just wanted to learn. And the boss kind of like was like, oh no, like that's all wrong. Like you're doing that wrong. Like, but I'll show you. And he started showing him how to do it. And he was like teaching him something. And I was like sitting here, like doing the flue pipe or something. And I was like, damn, like, I was like that, like he just jumped right in, and and I knew that was a good look. Like I knew, I was like, fuck, like he looks better than me right now. And it was no coincidence that a couple of weeks later, he had actually told me, he was like, yo, he's like, you know, Jeff gave me a raise. And dude, I was pissed. And I wasn't pissed. I was like jealous, and
Yeah.
granted, like that's good for him. Like I'm happy for the kid, but I'm jealous because like we started at the same rate, and he actually started a week after me, and he proved that he was better than me. He was, willing to learn or jump right in, and that taught me from that point forward, the next job that I had, that's where I went from helper to installer, because I jumped right the fuck in. I was like not doing helper tasks anymore. I wouldn't even let them. They would say like, all right, go set the condenser. And I would like get it done in an hour. I'd bust it out so I could go back inside and learn. And and they respected that. And like a lot of times, like if there was two helpers on the job, I just assumed the role, and I'd be like, all right, well, you go do the condenser because I'm learning the inside shit, and like I kind of didn't give them that choice. And I encourage, new guys in the industry to kind of do that and take that initiative, because that is how you're going to grow, and that's how you're going to get raises, and that's how you're going to learn more. It's, there's hammers and there's nails in this, not even the industry, in this world, and you got to be a hammer. You don't want to be getting nailed. You want to be doing the nailing. And I learned that from this kid, and I kind of wanted to say his name to give him a shout out for that, because I've told him that story before, how like that situation really changed like everything about how I looked at the way I was, doing this shit. And yeah, you got to jump in, and that's how you're going to learn. You can do all the schooling you want, all the classes, all the YouTube you want, but you're going to learn by touching it and sometimes fucking it up and, learning the hard way. But that hands-on experience and jumping right in, there's no better college. There's no better education.
That's how I learned. That's how I learned. I messed up so much when I started. And now we see that with the guys that we hire, like who are the ones that are just with their hands in their pockets, watching or doing the littlest tasks, and who are the ones that actually want to turn wrenches and jump in and volunteer. So, I'm seeing it now because we're starting to have new hires and stuff like that. And not a big deal. There is like one that's a kid straight out of high school. So we just have to give him a little pep talk here and there. Just don't, because the whole thing with my dad, and I know I've heard other guys say this too, like don't ever just stand around, right? Don't ever just have your hands in your pockets. It's always a bad look.
Yeah.
Always be doing something no matter what. And I've had that conversation with my own brother when he started with us, right? Like I know some of the stuff that we do is very boring, maintenance. We do a lot of maintenance, and you might catch yourself bored or doing the same thing over. Like just find something to do, right? There's always something to do. There's always something to clean up or, whatever it is. And in today's day and age, because I just had that situation, I sent out some guys to a local place. Now, we do a lot of big chains, right? A lot of big fast food chains, and they trust us. As long as we go in and do good work, we're fine. It's always the local small mom and pop shops that are like super critical of like, keeping track of time, keeping track of what they spend, everything, right? And my dad has warned them, like, be careful because people are watching. So I got a complaint that I had to I kind of had to diffuse because the guy was watching all the cameras, and he's like, I have cameras everywhere. He's like, basically I had to call him, but he's like, Adrian, I have cameras everywhere. This kid was just standing around. And, I apologized, talked to both sides, right? And I just had to remind them there's always somebody watching. So you got to be careful. You got to be,
That's
working.
critical, man.
Yeah, you got to be doing something. Even if it's, like I said, I go back to maintenance. Like even if it's just cleaning, like clean the hell out of that unit and make sure that whole hour or whatever it is worth it to the customer, right? Like I don't care what it is, just do it.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I that's a big piece of advice I would give to, like, in today's day and age.
Yeah.
No matter what part of the house you're in, you should anticipate that they got a camera on you hidden, and that's how you should always work, because it's probably true half the time. Even if you're using the this is creepy, but like, even if you're using a customer's restroom, just use you just never know, man. I'm telling you, I always you never know with people, man. So just do your job and get out and be professional,
That was my, one of my, advice points like years ago. because I would do it. Like always pretend because like somebody's watching you or someone's going to inspect
Mhm.
your work. You know,
Yes.
always that's the only way you can think. That way you do the best work that you do. But yeah,
Yeah.
nowadays it's just a whole different thing because there are cameras everywhere. I even saw somebody residential go up into an attic and they saw a camera there. So there, some people have
Oh yeah,
cameras.
I've seen plenty of the
Okay.
kind of cameras you would see. It's like a Ring camera, but
Yeah.
in an attic. I've seen plenty of
Oh,
those.
okay. Okay. So it is a thing.
Even in attics. Yeah, basements often, but attics I've even seen it a handful of times.
I've
And you
seen,
did say you
well, I
said
saw
something
that and I
really
was like, that was crazy.
you just said something important, and I'll stop talking after this because I know we're going on a lot of time. But you said always do like a good thorough job no matter what, even if no one's watching, whatever. That's integrity right there, man. And I'm big on that. And I learned that from my father, because I remember once we were on a job and it was getting late, and it was like he wasn't even charging the old lady money or something. And I was like, Dad, like, I was like, fuck this. Let's get out of here. Like, just get it done. And he's like, absolutely not. He's like, you do the same job as if you're making $1 million or if you're doing it for free. And he's like, that's how you
Yep.
work. That's just how he was, man. So, I believe in that. I do.
That's the same way my dad has been. And the things that I got from him, I mentioned work ethic earlier, but like honesty and transparency and just doing good work. Like that's always been the way
Yep.
we do things and it's always worked out for us. And yeah, because when I was younger, I thought, because we did commercial, I thought I was always going to be the only technician there, right? Oh, they're going to call me every time. I'm going to do all this work, all this other stuff, right? Like I thought I had job security, right?
Yeah.
I learned later that no, they call second opinions, they call, other companies. It doesn't matter.
True.
It doesn't matter. Like it happens. It could be that your best customer and it still happens, right? So the thing that I've been trying to tell our new guys right now, because I've been doing it, this way for a long time is, like I said, always act like somebody's going to come after you and inspect it. Because when I leave a
Yep.
job site and how I want my guys to work is you do the best work, you clean up, you take pride. Because if that second opinion comes or somebody else stops by there or the customer themselves goes and looks, they have nothing bad to say about you. Like everything was done correctly, everything was done neatly. There's not a bad thing they can say because that's how they get you. They word spreads really quick if you do screw up or
Yeah.
screw over a customer.
No, I couldn't agree more with that, man. It takes a lifetime to build your reputation and a moment to lose it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Where can they find you? I found you on Instagram. Are you on any other platforms?
No, you know what? I'm actually not, man.
Okay.
I'm like locked in on Instagram only. I want to focus on that first. I know people have already told me that that's not smart, but it allows me to focus on just that. I'm not really good at like compartmentalizing and having too many things going on.
It's
So if
hard.
I can
Yeah.
just focus on that one, I'd like to do that for now. That's where I'm at. So yeah, I'm on Instagram as at NJservicecalls.
Yeah, go check them out. It's grown quite a bit since I contacted you, so that's good to see, man. So just keep pumping out those videos and post as just have fun with it, and it'll
That's
get
it,
there.
man. Yeah, I look forward to circling back. We'll do another one when I hit like 10,000 followers or something.
There you go. That's what I was gonna say. I know we could have gone into or gone deeper into many of these conversations we had, so definitely kind of look forward to doing it again, and we'll
Me
get you
too,
back on the
man.
show.
Me
Thanks
too.
again for taking the time, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for again for having me. It was absolutely a good time and it was an honor. So I look forward to doing it again too. Good pleasure to meet you too.
Yeah, it was good meeting you. I love doing these to get to know people. Everybody watching and listening, I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next one.